Welcome back to another episode of the We Grow Together podcast. I think we have an absolutely fascinating conversation that I'm excited to share about today because it is something that I think about constantly in my organizations, which is people, planning, support, management, all of the above. In my opinion, as an entrepreneur of 5 businesses, the people component is the most challenging part to get right, to do well. And I find that as a leader, one of my most important aspects of the people aspects of my business is making sure that it's a two-way street, that not only are they supporting us, but we're supporting them. It's an environment for growth, success. I do believe so much that your people are your business, no matter whether you have a product, a service, whatever it is, your business is driven by your people. And if your people are taken care of, if they're in the right seats, if they're doing the right projects, if they have the right management support, training, environment, they can succeed tremendously more than without that. And then when you couple that on the fact of that will directly impact your success as a company, as an entrepreneur. There are so many wide-ranging impacts to having a focus on your team and their professional development. So for me, it is one of the greatest areas that I spend a lot of time and thought in my business is to make sure that I'm doing this to the best of my ability. I will say, working in big law, there was a lot that I learned, good things that they did, and there was a lot that I learned in terms of things that I wouldn't want to do, making sure that not only are they trained, but they're also supported and they have people to go to when there's issues and they can ask any question they need, and that they have great progression scales going from one project to another project to a role and understanding how they fit in the company. So we have a lot that we do in our development systems. At any given time, we have 10 to 20 employees of the 5 businesses at a minimum, and that's not including interns or anything else. And we have a very progressive, productive internship program. And there are a few things that I've implemented in my business. I have hired more senior folks. I've hired people with a lot more experience. I've hired people with backgrounds and everything. And you know what? While I'm not closing my mind off for that to be an opportunity in the future, at this point, I really like having an internship program and the ability to work with someone for months before we commit to actually hiring them. And then we have the ability to train them on our systems and way of doing things, and find that that's been really successful for us because I'm not going to lie, I don't like firing people. It's one of my things that I hate the most in business. And it's something that I try to set myself up for success so that I have hires that I want to continue to be a productive part of the business and grow with our business. And I do think that if you have the right people on your team, that it makes it a world of difference, the business that you're coming into every day and how you feel coming into that business, and making sure that it's not only a productive place for them, but also a productive place for you as the entrepreneur and leader of the team. So I work really hard to vet my team members over a very long period of time. We have hiring, then we have internships, and then we hire almost everybody in a part-time position before a full-time position. Sometimes we've done full-time hires right out of an internship or something like that. But for the most part, we really have it staged and progressed. And we do have, in addition to that, a very thoughtful progression of roles so that team members see where they can go in the future. In addition to onboarding, today we're going to talk specifically about onboarding, but we have a lot of systems and processes in our business overall to support our team members, which include having databases of learning materials, both in terms of written standard operating procedures, videos and trainings, and tons of materials, as well as support from me, managers. Every single team member has a one-on-one that they do monthly, and then a glow up is what we call a progress check-in quarterly. So each person knows their expectations, knows what their goal is, knows what their role is. We have very defined, clear expectations and roles. And I think all of these things, in addition to our company culture, we have a come as you are culture. We do mental health Mondays. We structure our whole businesses to support our team members. On Fridays, we have summer Fridays and everything. So We really structure our business from the inside out, every single part of it, to focus on being a good place for good people. That's at the heart of it. Now, today we're going to be talking about onboarding specifically, how we structure that for our team members, how we make it as easy as possible for us, having been in business for 6 years with, at any given point, 15 to 20 employees and interns. In addition to that, we do onboard quite a number of team members, and there's a natural attrition to business, and there's going to be turnover as necessary because people are poached. People go on and decide that they don't want to do mergers and acquisitions and they want to do intellectual property law instead or something like that. So there's very natural attrition, and that's okay. In any time when someone's leaving the business, I like to end it on a good note. But let's face it, we have to make onboarding as easy as possible for the new team members and our business, because any sort of disruption when there's a change of team members, whether that's because you're growing and you need a new role, or because there is an attrition and someone left and then they're backfilling the role, whatever the case may be, whenever people are coming in and out of the business, it needs to be as easy as possible and not disrupt your team members, because disrupting your team members from their everyday work is going to ultimately disrupt your business. There's going to be a certain amount of disruption for sure, but we try to minimize it as much as possible. And we also try to set them up for success. We want someone to be equipped within the first week of working with us, and even prior, to understand our culture, to understand expectations, what it takes to succeed, what is success in our opinion. And we like to lay that all up front. So let's talk a little bit more about what we do for onboarding. With the hiring process, I hire great team members. They handle hiring. I am very minimally involved in hiring, only for new positions that haven't been created for, or in a reporting structure where they would be reporting to me or something like that. So to the greatest extent possible, I'm not doing hiring. So once someone is hired, then we send them an offer email and let them know, okay, let's figure out your start date. And then working backwards from their start date, we will start getting them all set up so that they have communications, welcome letters, what the first day is going to be like, what the first week is going to be like, and a little preview of what the first month is going to look like. And then we tell them what to expect, all of the different documents to expect, all of the different platforms that they'll be invited to. So we make it very clear. I love a welcome letter. I think that's a really important part of an onboarding process, because it really doesn't start at the onboarding week. It starts as soon as they're hired. They should have clarity and expectations, and I feel like it sets the right tone, and it also makes your job a lot easier. So we have checklists for hiring managers to be able to implement into the business, to be able to make it as easy as possible to onboard people. We have it in Asana. It is something that they just say, adding marketing onboarding or adding a new team member in this area. And then they have their checklist, add them to all of our different platforms, Asana, Slack, Google Drive, 1Password, and so on. And then making sure that they have all of the information that they need. If they have different roles where they're added to other platforms, that they're added to those other platforms. And we have all of this templatized. We have all of our hiring emails templatized. We have all of our welcome letters templatized. We send them our policies and procedures. We want to make sure they understand what our vacation rules are, how to request time off, everything like that. They have all of that information before they even start. So then I think it's good for a few reasons. First off, I know that there's been multiple businesses that have experienced this. We've experienced this. Now, it doesn't really happen in our jobs per se, but in our internships particularly. And that's all pipeline for our positions that we have within the company. We have a lot of people who commit and say they're going to start, but they're still looking for jobs and might find something that they think is better, then they may quit before they start, or they may quit shortly after they start because they think this is going to be really easy and just a quick win and something to add to their resume. And whether it's the internship or a full-time position with us, we have a very high quality of work standard that's expected across our enterprise. That's very clear in our expectations, in the amount of effort that we put into our onboarding, and we expect the same for anybody working with us, no matter what the position is. So we also like to communicate early so that if it's not a good fit, if we thought during the interview process that it was a good fit, they thought it was a good fit during the interview process, but then they start to see our business and feel a part of our business. And if they're like, whoa, this is too much for me, I'm looking for a walk in the park, totally fine. I'd rather know that as soon as possible. Now, it is not trying to dissuade anybody. They are welcoming, but we are very clear in our welcome letters what the expectation is for our culture, what our values are, that we have an expectation of excellence in our work product, that we're looking for people who are self-starters, that they're driven, that they enjoy taking on innovation and experience in stride. So, we have a very strong personality in our brands and our businesses, and I actually think that's good. It's not meant to turn anybody off, but we're showing our cards. We're showing exactly who we are in our welcoming materials, and people can decide whether or not it's for them or not for them. So I think it's important to be over communicative. And then I also think of the same process as the process that I think of when I'm building out all of my communications for Flourish or Ethereal Farms and we have guests coming in. I want them to have all of their questions answered because I don't want to answer them. And while I no longer answer them, I'm no longer the hiring manager, I still don't want my team members to be bombarded with questions that don't necessarily need to be asked. And I think that level of uncertainty where we're not clear about our expectations and what we're providing and what they're doing, then it creates a lot of uncertainty and lack of confidence. And I think that when someone fully commits, when they understand what the expectations are, then you find a situation where both parties are in a much more mutually beneficial relationship. So I always like to over communicate, make sure that it's clear what expectations are, what week one is, what week 2 and 3 and 4. And I'm very clear too that week 1 is onboarding. It is you absorbing information and learning, taking notes, watching videos, going through standard operating procedures, meeting team members, meeting managers, meeting peers, that there's this whole process that their first week is not going to look like the rest of their time. But I do like to make sure that they understand that there's also progression of training and a progression of onboarding. And so they're clear that yes, they're going to have great projects to work on and interesting work to do, but they're not going to get responsibility to begin with. We have a training protocol where we go through things 3 times, and we like to do it where first we give them a training, watch the training, and then we'll train you on it. And then you're going to see a manager do it. And then you're going to do it with a manager's oversight. And then, of course, there's questions that are asked back and forth. So we have like 3 phases of training on something before we let it go. And then once we let it go, there's, of course, management and oversight. But we make it clear that there are progressions in their training and in their position and everything, and that they will get more as they go, so that they don't expect that the way that the first week is the way that everything's going to be, or the way that the second week is the way everything's going to be. Even though we have an onboarding week, they're onboarding for at least a month and a half to 2 months before they're really, I feel like, ingratiated within the companies. When I was starting my business, I needed a place to create, a place that filled me from the inside out, somewhere that inspired me, helped me make content, a place where I could go to get good work done and host events, gather in community, celebrate one another, host family and friends for gatherings. So I created Flourish Co-working Space in Westchester, Pennsylvania. It's a space that nourishes you from the inside out. It's lush, inspiring environment with hundreds of plants to make you feel like your best self so that you can do your best work and gather in community in a way that's casual, inviting, and just incredible. I hope you check it out. If you need a co-working or event space in Westchester, PA, be sure to visit us and book your co-working or event today. Leading up to onboarding, we've sent out those messages, we've sent out what to expect, and then the week of, we talk about, okay, here's all of your onboarding prep. Please make sure that you submit all of the documentation that we need. We have questionnaires for fun in addition to some of the more serious things that we need, signed company policies and everything like that. We also like to ask, what's your favorite coffee? What's your favorite lunch from one of the local lunches? So that if we do a surprise, we have everybody's orders and we can do that. We also ask when everybody's birthdays are. We have those birthday charts and ask people what their favorite thing is to do outside of work and just kind of get to know people. So it's both cultural and educational and training what our onboarding process is. So we want people to feel like they're a part of the team, that they have connection here, and that they also know who to go to if they have questions or if they want something reviewed or whatnot, that they know all of our systems and processes. So that's kind of the beginning of the introduction. And we do also send them some videos, welcome to the team, some overviews of our different platforms, so that if they would like to do anything ahead of time, they can. They do have access to our training materials within the first week before. Some people look over all the training materials and do that ahead of time. They're welcome to do it on the week of. There is no pressure to do anything, but they do have access to it. So if they'd like to get a little bit of a preview, then they have access to be able to do that. We have our first week structured pretty well. I mean, I think that there's always room for improvement, but we've done a lot of iterations at this point. So during our week, we always have team meetings. We have team meetings by subject matter. So like DSL PR and marketing, Flourish PR and marketing, Ethereal Farms PR marketing, sales, technical, legal, and then we have daily meetings with our teams. The business team and the legal team have different separate daily meetings where everybody comes together and they meet. So we tell them about our meetings. And then if it's like an internship onboarding, and we did align it so that all internships start at the same time, that's made things a world of easier for us. And then we have that onboarding checklist. So their first week, they get an Asana assignment of their onboarding checklist. And we have these templatized based on their role and everything. And that includes adding their daily check-ins and checkouts that they do, adding their weekly checkouts. Let's talk about daily. So daily check-ins and checkouts is when they tell us what they're going to be working on throughout the day. They tell us our priorities. That way a manager can look at it and revise priorities if there's a need or if anything came in. And then they have their checkout where they hyperlink any work in progress so that we can give feedback as needed, and overall just send what they did throughout the day. And then our weekly checkouts are a little bit further zoomed out, saying what their goals are for the week, how they did with their goals, what their goals are for next week, what they loved about the week, what they learned from the week, and anything kind of more zoomed out related to the business. So those are our weekly checkouts. Then they, of course, do their daily timesheets and everything. And then the onboarding tasks are things like signing into Google. All of our documents are saved on our Google Drive, highly organized, and there's permissions for each department and different roles of which levels of access to documents and companies that they have to make it all very protected. And then we also have sign into 1Password. We have all of our sign-ins protected through 1Password, and each person based on their role is given a certain amount of access. So we're very, very sensitive to document management and security of information, everything like that. And it also makes it a whole lot easier so that once someone is a part of the team, they have access to our documents. And then once someone's not a part of the team, they don't have access to our documents. And once someone's a part of the team, they have access to every platform that they need access to. And then once they're not a part of the team, they don't. So for us, even though it takes a lot of work to get that level of organization, it is wild how easy it makes your life having team members on board and off board. And then other aspects are, learn about your human design. Human design is kind of what we do and set up personality tests and share it with the team. And they can listen to our podcast and others learning about our businesses. I like to think of this as if you hire a new server, you need to make sure they know everything on the menu. When we hire a new team member, they need to know all of our offers. They need to know all of our different businesses, our sister brands, and they also need to know every product and service that we offer for our company. They need to know our ideal client. They need to know our sales funnel. No matter who they are, no matter what position they're working in, there's a certain amount of information that they need to learn learn about our business. And then we also have essential trainings that they go through how we approach each different platform, how to do their check-ins and checkouts and timesheet and all of the administrative aspects. Actually, let me just go to my Asana right now and I'll go and see what the tasks are. Signing into Slack, signing into Google, signing into 1Password. We also have employee files, so we have them create their employee file and upload all of the documents that we need signed and everything. And we have that employee information sheet, which is a little bit more on the fun side, learning about their human design, signing policies. And then we have them add all of their information under our team, which lists all of the different people who work for us under all of our different companies. And that includes their name, their phone number, their role, their hours and schedule, their birthday, that kind of stuff. And that way, everybody, if they ever have a question, while we do have a Slack and Asana for communicating in a non-time sensitive manner, if they do have something where they really need to get a hold of someone. And we like to do that so that everybody has a way of communicating that doesn't impact someone's day-to-day life. I want them to be able to enjoy life and enjoy work and be able to have a differentiation between them. But ultimately, if something's time sensitive, then they do have a way to reach them. And then we have going over our scheduling policies, submitting any out of office requests, reviewing our standard operating procedures. Each role has a set of standard operating procedures, reviewing the video tutorials. As I mentioned, we have our essentials, and then we also have things that are role specific. So we have hundreds and hundreds of video tutorials, but they will only be assigned like maybe 15 to 20 or so video tutorials of varying lengths, usually in the first week, to get them to better know our business and our customers and all of our policies and procedures and how we do things, and then also to start to learn the technical aspects of their role. And then we also have them take time to get to know our Google Drive, familiarize themselves with Asana, their daily and weekly and monthly tasks. So before they start, we've loaded up their Asana with all of their expected tasks for the first week or two so that they have an idea of what's coming down the pipeline. They're able to plan for that. And then they, of course, familiarize themselves with the company and brand, and then they schedule their monthly one-on-one meetings with their manager. They get to know their manager. They set up their quarterly glow up in 2 months, and then they also do a couple other miscellaneous. So that's, for the most part, what the onboarding couple of tasks that we have them do in the first week. And then they do meet with their direct manager, any kind of people they'll be collaborating with. So their direct manager handles their professional development, gives them feedback on a day-to-day basis, makes sure that we have someone who's touching base with them every single week and really able to foster their development within the company. And then they may report to other managers. For instance, we have a social media manager, we have an operations manager. So even though they may have a direct report, that may not be the only person they're reporting to. If they're, for instance, on the marketing team and doing social media and podcasting, then they're going to be reporting to the podcast manager and the social media manager. So they'll meet with everybody that they're reporting to, their manager, and they'll also meet with me. And then we also, on the first week, like to have the kind of subject matter team meetings. So like all of Ethereal Farms will have a meeting, all of Flourish will have a meeting, all of Dean Street Law will have a meeting. And it is a lot of meetings and a lot of video trainings. We do ask everybody to take notes, to take thorough notes, to be able to go through their notes, to be able to tell everything that they learned so that they don't have to then go back and watch videos and try to figure out where something was said. Of course, they're always welcome to ask questions, and we do live trainings too within the onboarding week. So our onboarding week is structured to really give people an overview, a welcome. There's kind of like an hour each day of live trainings for everybody on the business team and live trainings for everybody on the legal team. And then in addition to that, they, on week 2, have more of a focused training. So I'll have a training with each person on their specific role, and then on week 2, they might learn something more about like an SEO training or how to do social media or more technical things. So depending on their role, who that would be with their manager and everything. On the first week, it is a lot of videos, it is a lot of documentation and a lot of meetings, but we find that this really aligns. And throughout those meetings, I'm usually not the person leading the call. I have a set person on the team who's leading each call, and we have developed a whole schedule ahead of time, and they know the whole onboarding week schedule before they start. And then we record all of those. So if we have someone join asynchronously, then we're able to easily have them watch those. And that's also why we have such a big learning library, so that if someone onboards in the middle of June and we've done most of our onboarding in the beginning of May, that we have the ability to easily have someone on board without it taking a lot of time and energy and resources. Of course, we're going to have those meetings, make sure that they get to meet. At that point, we have our regular team meetings. So we would have a DSL meeting or something like that. And then we'll have an individual one-on-one with them, explaining their first projects, everything like that, their progression trajectory. So it's all super thought out. And then it's always an improvement that we make time and time again, where we say, okay, we just did it. What was good? What was bad? What do we want to get rid of? What was too much? And we have toyed several times around the fact of doing kind of like learning check-ins of the sort, whether that's quizzes or something like that. We have never implemented that. We've thought about it multiple times. I don't think it's necessary. I think people show their hands pretty quickly of whether they're a team member that's going to be elevated or they're a team member that's just there and just kind of like shipping in the work and not really putting a lot of care into it and ultimately not going to be a good fit. That is why we have that internship program. The number one question I'm asked is, how do I do all the things I do? So I put this into a course, a workbook, and a workshop where you can find all the little details about how I do this on a daily basis. And I've called it the Wild Ambition Lifestyle Design Course, Workbook, and Workshop. Transform your dreams into reality with guided vision setting, storyboarding, journaling, and all the tools I use to bring my dreams to life, with over 100 lessons, 200 plus pages of workbooks, and lifetime access so you can return to it whenever you need to. The course itself is that iterative process of how we continue to evolve over time to be the best version of ourselves. If you are an ambitious individual, if you want to make your dreams come true, I think you'll really love Wild Ambition, and I encourage you to check it out in the show notes. Start your journey today. Enroll now to dream and live with wild ambition. With respect to customizing the onboarding process with respect to different roles and experience levels. So we have a whole team onboarding process where we talk about the brand guidelines, ideal customer, going over overall key offers, background on the company, all that kind of stuff. And then we have role-specific trainings that we do. So the first couple of days are more systems and processes of the company as a whole, how we use different platforms, the technology that we use, all that kind of stuff, expectations on checking in and checking out, and just overall what is applicable to everybody. And then once we have like 2 to 3 hours of those types of meetings, we have one-on-one meetings by company, by function, by role, etc., with their manager and me. So there's a lot of training then that goes on the rest of the first week and into the second week, really specific into roles. And then based on their roles, they may have multiple weeks or months of training. Of course, throughout our whole internship process, that's all training. But then once someone's hired for like a role in our company, we do the same thing of like meeting with them about their role, putting together standard operating procedures for them, going over expectations, and continue to evolve that over time. And then it's an evolutionary sort of conversations that we have. So with every new role that someone takes on, new project that they do, we always do training to make sure that they feel prepared for that. And then we have a lot of different tools that we use during onboarding that I think are really helpful. So using your systems and processes to make onboarding and offboarding throughout your company easy is something that I think is very beneficial, because while you want to have the greatest culture that you can have and have employee retention be amazing and all of these things, realistically, onboarding and offboarding team members can be extremely disruptive to your business. And so it's important to make sure that those are done in as easy of a manner as possible. So what we use is we use 1Password, which gives them login access to everything. Once they're in the company, they get access. Once they're out of the company, they remove access. And super simple. We keep everything on Google Drive. That's our storage system. And they get access to our company login so that we don't have to individually take them out of every single folder. They just either have access or they don't through 1Password. They have their individual logins for Slack and Asana and other sort of platforms that we use where it's necessary that they track things individually, so that those specific things, project management, communications, obviously you're communicating one-on-one with someone. And then we have different channels within Slack. Everything's very organized. So we like to make sure that it's a really systematized process. And then we have a hiring chart as well internally of all the steps to onboard someone. Add them to 1Password, add them to Asana, add them to Slack, all of the things. And then we also have an offboarding, do our exit interview, make sure they're removed from all of those platforms, make sure that they've removed all passwords and documents from their computer, a whole bunch of processes to make sure that it's offboarded appropriately. We, in the weeks leading up to offboarding, also make sure that we transition all of their projects. So those are a lot of the things that we do to make onboarding and offboarding easier. And then in Asana specifically, we have task templates and things that are repeating tasks that we just reassign to someone else before we remove them from Asana, so that it doesn't disrupt our flow of repetitive tasks that need to be done in the business. I hope that's helpful. I think just honestly using whatever technology you feel comfortable with a mind and eye towards how can I make onboarding and offboarding in my business as easy as possible, as least disruptive as possible, is the idea there. And then how do we collaborate across different people, different team members? So we have HR, managers, other team members who are all involved. Every single person on our team is involved in the onboarding process. So they will always have our team meetings, the business team and the legal team have different team meetings to do like the first week together. And then beyond that, we have meetings with them, their manager, and me. And then we also have meetings with the specific project manager that they might be working with on a specific project. So someone on PR and marketing is going to be working with our social media manager on social media, but they may be working on a brand manager with respect to overall the brand focus and everything like that. So I think it's really important to get everybody involved in the onboarding process so that it sets the tone for communication and collaboration throughout the entire engagement of the employee or independent contractor, to make sure that you feel like they know who to go to with what information and what questions, so that especially you as the entrepreneur aren't the person always fielding those questions. The next is what the benefits are of having an onboarding week specifically and an organized onboarding week overall. So the structure has been something that we've been building over the last 5 years, right? We've actually always basically had an onboarding week. As soon as I hired someone, I was like, I just want you to focus your first week exclusively on getting to know our company, on getting to know what you're doing, and then I'm going to start to give you projects. So that was something that I made a decision very early on, because I think it's really a huge mistake to expect someone to just jump into projects and then for them to be able to execute them to the ability that you need them to execute it to. If they don't know their background, if they don't know their audience, if they don't know your systems and processes, a lot of mistakes are going to be made, and it's honestly inefficient time. So I always like to think of, how can I set my employees up for success? And that to me is giving them an onboarding week. Give them a week to get to know us, a week for us to get to know them, and then they start to get projects. And I always preface what to expect in week 1, what to expect in week 2, because a lot of people want to just jump into things and they don't want to watch videos and have meetings and all that kind of thing. But it's really important for us that they take notes, that we don't have to repeat ourselves 20 billion times when we have onboarding and offboarding. So I like to have that structure. That structure has been built over time to be something that is more supportive, has a lot more different touch points, is more intentional, gives them more of what they need. So every single season, I'm thinking of what can we do to make next season of onboarding better. I think of it very seasonally because everything starts for us with our internship program. That's how people grow into the roles of HR and manager and everything like that. But if you need to think of it, maybe you think of like every 6 months checking in to say, how can my onboarding be better? And then whenever I'm problem solving, I always say to the manager, let's incorporate that into onboarding, or let's make sure that that becomes a training or something like that, so that we are always thinking of it and then we're very intentionally up leveling as well. For us, it means that we don't have our company coming into total disarray every time someone onboards. Most of the time when someone onboards is when you are stretched the most thin, because you have other people taking care of your projects in the interim, or you are onboarding someone because you're growing quickly. So most of the time, I like to be very, very proactive in my hiring and hire ahead of the curve, ahead of when I need someone, so that we don't have people who are overworked and unhappy. But a lot of companies do hire reactively rather than proactively. And especially in those situations, it's going to be a very stressful time in the business for everybody involved, which is why the huge benefit to having a very organized, systematized process where you have documents and video trainings and checkpoints and expectations and structure can be really helpful, because it will make your life, their life, a lot easier. And I oftentimes find that when someone knows what to expect, they are then able to rise to the occasion, or you find out very quickly if they do or they don't. So for me, it's also an opportunity for benefiting the company in leveling out expectations and setting and communicating expectations, whether it be an internship or a position in the company. I like to be very transparent about expectations. We have a high expectation of excellence in our companies. That is known by everybody who interviews with us, everybody who works with us. That's me. That's my values. That's our company values. And when I take onboarding and giving them their necessary information to succeed, that means that I'm then showing them how much I care about their work in our business. And I'm saying, this is the level of excellence that I come into our working relationship with. I expect you to match it. That's the expectation. Simple as that. So I think it does a really good job of communicating, training, setting expectations, overall creating a very productive work environment that will continue on into the future. So it'll help increase productivity. It'll help make sure that your work product is the quality that you want. It's going to reduce work and friction for your managers and you in the future. It'll hopefully reduce turnover, or if someone's not a good fit, it's going to be evident very quickly. Ultimately, the goal is that throughout the whole process, we're building culture. It's not just meetings. It's not just talking to, but like I said before, it's getting to know them. It's a two-way street. It's building culture. It's sharing values. It's connecting. All of those things are the important aspects of our onboarding process. We really like to make sure that our onboarding process reflects our brand and reputation and helps us to attract talent. I think that when you communicate expectations and boundaries from the beginning, the good people that you want to work with are attracted to that. I'm attracted to someone who tells me what they want and knows what they want. To me, that's very attractive, whether it's an employer, a client, a partner. I like when people are clear and consistent and fair. That's a huge bonus in any relationship, whether it be business or personal. So for us, it's reflecting our brand in how we communicate, the values that we share, how we make it not just about education and training and setting them up for success, but also getting to know them, getting to know us, sharing our culture, sharing about our mental health Mondays, the things that we do that are different. It's also an opportunity to highlight how different your company is. And that's a great opportunity for retention, because when you're talking about the things that you do in your company, sometimes, especially someone early on in their career, may not know how different the things that you do are in your company. And so sharing that in a gentle, nice way through your onboarding program and sharing what you do and what you value at your company is a great way to set up a relationship that feels good from the start. With that said, I hope that this has been a helpful episode. I would love to hear what you do in your onboarding process. Share it on our social media. Tag me at Laura M. DiFrancesco at Flourish Westchester. Leave a comment on our episode, whether it be on Spotify, on YouTube, or otherwise. I would love to hear, what do you do for your onboarding process? What are your best practices? Share with us, help us grow just as we help you grow, and we will grow together. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Cheers and enjoy yourself.